Hello,
Hello.
good evening, good morning, good night,
Good afternoon. You didn't say good
good
afternoon.
afternoon to everyone. I am Poch,
And I am Gabe.
and you are now once again, watching the Difficult Lemon Difficult podcast.
Podcast.
We have not recorded in a few months,
Which is funny because our last episode was entitled We Are So Back. And we so
but
lied.
now we're definitely back right now.
Yes.
So that's what we meant.
So we're very excited to get back on this and talk to our friends and tell people about what's been going on this side of the world.
Yes. Before everything, Gabe.
Yeah, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to our channel on YouTube or following us on Spotify. Don't forget to like. What? See, we've been so
Like,
gone.
subscribe, and
And
turn
turn
on
on notifications
notifications
for YouTube.
for YouTube.
And don't forget, wherever you're listening to us or watching us on, share it with your friends and family, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. You already know what to do.
Yep. Let's get into it.
So this week, something horrible happened
Yes, something horrible
in
happened
the subway.
in the subway. So, I'm not sure if people outside of this area of the world know
Mm-hmm.
about what happened, but basically there was an altercation in the subway somewhere in Brooklyn, I think, this past Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and it ended with somebody getting shot in the head.
Mm-hmm.
um which is, like, for us, obviously it kind of scared us because we take the subway.
Poch takes the
I think I
subway.
take the subway very more often than Gabe
Yeah.
because I take it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And what's strange is we were not, I mean, as much as we were affected and shocked by it, we weren't surprised that it happened.
Well, I was surprised. Okay, maybe not.
Poch was not surprised that it
It
happened.
was more like, what? I can't believe this. I didn't think something that
Of that magnitude would have happened.
something of that magnitude. I mean, I've definitely seen firsthand, and also I've heard of other events where somebody was punched in the car or
It's like muggings and yeah.
mugging, which I know is alarming, but I mean it is alarming, but I feel like in this area it's an unfortunate fact
Yeah.
that this
So
happens.
I think just to recap it, because we didn't get into why the person was shot. So let's say Instigator Man was a he was trying to start a fight with another person on the train, and it escalated to the point that they were punching each other.
They were beating
They were
each
beating each
other
other
up.
up, and a concerned citizen, lady with a knife, let's call her that, she started trying to stab Instigator Man.
Mm-hmm.
So Instigator Man was shocked because she had nothing to do with the original fight that he had instigated, and he was I mean, as somebody who is stabbed, he was upset, so he pulled out his illegal weapon on the subway and proceeded to try to shoot the person he was trying to fight and the lady
Lady
with
with
a
a
knife.
knife.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, who I don't know, depending on who you are, the person who was shot at the end of this story was the person who owned the gun, aka Instigator Man.
Yeah.
So it was a wild series of events, and I think it highlights for us, or at least for me, it highlights the very big cultural difference between public transportation here and public transportation back in the Philippines where we used to live. I think we both experienced having to take public transportation on a regular basis, either the jeep or I don't know if you ever taken the
I did.
MRT, LRT,
Mm-hmm.
um, bus,
Yes.
and anyone who has taken public transportation in the Philippines knows that there are unspoken rules, or there's definitely a kind of etiquette that people have when they're taking
Yes.
public transportation. So for example, in the case of a jeep, if you can sit down, you're gonna sit down. Obviously, it doesn't matter if um, only one butt cheek is on the chair or whatever. You're gonna sit down, right? And the people beside you, more or less, are like, okay, like that's
Like,
life. I mean,
I get
you
it.
don't fit,
Yeah.
but you know what? We're all just trying to get home. Sure, whatever. I think also people on public transportation aren't necessarily loud all the time. It depends.
Oh, yeah. People aren't,
Oh,
based on my
in
experience.
general, people aren't loud. If people are talking, it's very or texting on the phone, or if anyone is loud, it's probably the conductor or the jeepney driver, because they're trying to get payments and everything. So it's very different when you take public transportation here, because that's the culture shock part, I would say. I don't know. How about you, Gabe? Like,
Yeah, I think outside the context of this unfortunate incident, um, just in general, riding public transportation here is very different, at least for me. I, like what Botch mentioned, in college, I took the Jeep every day. I mean, yes, I don't commute very far, but that's still a Jeep ride and it's still public transportation. So, you know, having only one butt cheek on the chair, or there's like a heightened sense of alert when everyone feels like there's a quote unquote weirdo on the Jeep. You're kind of just like, oh, we're okay, like, don't give them space, like make them, force them out of the Jeep, or, passing yung quote unquote, yung bayad,
the fare,
the fare. Sorry, I was like, what's the word for this?
the
You,
monies.
you pass the fare forward, and, you just, there's that sense of, what to do in this situation. Here, it was a culture shock in that, first of all, like what Poch said, I was so confused that people talk out loud in
People
pub.
are very loud,
They're like,
on an obnoxious level, and and the funniest thing is, because public transportation here, mostly the ones that we experience are subways or trains that go underground. Dude, there's no service. So why are you? What's your problem? Why are you still talking on the phone?
there are some people who take calls on the subway and
They don't have an inside voice.
they don't no like they don't have an inside voice, but also they don't have earphones. So it's a call for everyone on the train, which I was like, do people not care that we're hearing what they're
They
saying?
don't.
Also,
Yeah.
I understand that people are passionate about music, but not everyone in this train needs to know what you're listening to.
Yeah.
Respectfully, I don't need to know what you're listening to.
Actually, not even respectfully, because they're not respect. I mean, people here do not respect. What did I say? Public spaces.
What do you mean?
I feel like they try to exert their private rights over public spaces very
Yeah,
obnoxiously.
I don't know.
For
Maybe people are used to it here, but it's
Yeah,
really
that's why it's a
weird for
shock for us.
me.
So I mean, this was what Gabe and I were discussing yesterday, because we were in the city, and we were saying it really is so much different, because I don't know how to say. Well, it's really different. I mean, as much as we all have access to the internet, and culture is very rapidly spread across, it's very different when you experience firsthand how it feels like to live in a different place, or how to interact with people from dominantly from a different place. So I think that's where we're still trying to get used to. I'm not sure if other people, or how other people experience their public transportation systems in countries that they're moving into. I feel like New York is such a bad example, because it's notorious for these kinds of things. For example, one there was one weekend Gabe and I went to
Oh,
was it Queens?
yes, it was
So we went to
Queens.
Queens. We bought this camera, and that train ride from Manhattan to Queens is around an hour long. It was an hour. It took us an hour from
Because it's very far and there
yeah
were several stops. So you can just imagine just the stop and go, stop and go.
yeah. So we saw every kind of person almost. And it was so funny because at this one point, um, a, I guess a dozen people, a dozen guys, like big guys, got into the train at the same time. And then they started going into the middle of the aisle. Not the aisle,
They were
the train.
walking up and down the train
Yeah.
in between, like
12,
in the
12, just
middle.
12 large men
Mm-hmm.
walk in, and everyone's, everyone has the sense of
What's going
what's
on?
happening, what's
Heightened
gonna
sense
happen.
of alert, just
And yeah,
mentally preparing for what could go
because
down.
anything, honestly, anything can
Mm-hmm.
happen in the subway. So we're everyone who was sitting down is kind of just eyeing each other,
Like,
like,
what are we?
okay,
What's the
what are
game
we dealing
plan?
with, what's
Yeah.
happening. And then one guy starts shouting, "People, please do not be alarmed, we are here to perform." And like one of them proceeds to jump into the rails of the, like, where you hold
Handrail
handrail, and then starts doing like tricks. I think if you search New York City subway dance
performers.
performers, you'll understand what we
It's like pole
witnessed that day.
dancing, but it's not sensual.
No,
It's
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 actually
not.
pretty cool,
It's
honestly.
honestly cool. I'm like,
And
whoa.
they pass around the hat.
Yeah. So, but I didn't have cash.
They're
So
a different
I
kind
did
of
not.
busker, I would
Yeah,
say.
but I thought it was pretty cool. It was just
It's just alarming
funny.
because anything happens on the train. I mean, I feel. Do you have any other? Oh, you should tell them about the person who left that bag, and then
The
why are you whispering? Yeah, the drugs.
oh oh, I don't even remember exactly what happened. I just remember I told you when I saw it. I was sitting on, it was the one train, which, no context to people who are not familiar,
It's
but
a train.
it's the train that I usually ride to go to Poch. So this was last year when I was still living in the city. Across from me was somebody who would cause some concern. Like, you're just like, oh, this person looks like they might have ingested something prior to getting to the subway. So people were just, s- keeping their distance, but it was a full train. And this person starts scratching their arms and, like, it's very, in Tagalog, malikot. Like, I don't know how to
So
say
this
that in
this person
English.
was clearly on
They
something.
were on something.
Yeah.
And then after maybe 2 or 3 stops, they get off. But they leave behind a small clear Ziploc with something inside.
And it's
I
not
don't I
grass.
don't know what it
So
is.
it's
I personally do not know what it is because I'm not familiar with these things. But I guess they just dropped it and it fell on the chair where they sat. When this person got off at after 2 or 3 stops, that stop happened to be a very popular train hub. So a lot of people also went off the train. Got off the train. So now there were several vacant seats and that one sachet on that one chair. And people were just looking at each other like, what is this? What is this? What is this? We don't know. But for several stops, it was quiet and people just left it alone until maybe 4 stops later. A new guy comes in and he just looks like he's observing the train, reading the map on the side, waiting for his stop. And he's looking around, just observing, I guess, general curiosity of who else is on the train. And then they sit beside the sachet and they're like, oh, what is that? Like he looks like he's confused too. And then when he gets to his stop, he does like a quick check and grabs the sachet and puts it in his pocket, then runs out. And I was like, now I
so
really
we're
don't
not
know
even
what
sure
it
if that was
is.
a dead drop or he just chanced upon
Whatever that is.
heroin,
It was
crack, I
just
don't know.
interesting. So yeah, we've seen stuff happen in the subway. So that happened. And then remember when we were walking, I forget what stop exactly. Was it like 14th Street or 42nd? Somebody was just injecting.
Oh
Remember
yeah.
when we were just walking?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Somebody was sitting down
It
and
was in Times Square, yeah.
they have
Times
an
Square, everyone.
injection,
Times Square, everyone.
to their arm, and I was like,
Yeah, people just shooting up in the terminal. It's definitely a culture shock that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Where you just, oh, okay, yep, this is not
and
this is not Manila.
there's the popular video that went around of somebody getting a tattoo underground, like in a subway station. And I know it looks weird, and I know it doesn't look real, but I maybe it was staged, but that's nothing out of the ordinary. I think like that probably does happen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it. I wouldn't consider it impossible.
And as somebody who is online a lot,
Mm-hmm.
even before we moved, we would see videos of this. It's fun. It's funny when like you see a Spider-Man, running around the
Yeah.
subway, or any kind of video clip you see on the internet about the subway that's funny. And it's funny. It really is. But then, you know, as someone who now has to use them,
Regularly.
it's not as funny because you're kind of just like, what? You don't know what's gonna happen today.
Yeah.
Which is, if you're a spontaneous person, kudos to you. That's great. But I kind of just want to get to work and home safely with no incidents. A few weeks ago,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, this is. I think this is the longer anecdote, I would say. But I was on the way to work. It was around, I want to say, 8:30 in the morning, and so I get into the subway cart, and usually each seat division sits three people, but for this one, it was a man and a woman, and the man was a little. He wasn't fat, but he was a little big, as in a taller gentleman, and his legs were, um, that was the term.
Long,
No, the term.
widespread.
They were widespread. He was clearly, mansplain. I know, was it
Man spreading.
manspreading? Yeah. So I sat in between him and her, and it was a very small space. Um, it was small that I didn't lean back into the
Yeah,
chair.
I
I didn't lean
understand.
back into the seat. So I was leaning forward. I was sitting down, and the train started moving. I could feel the guy was nudging me already, just a bit. Just not not forceful nudging, but just he was moving around, giving the impression that, hey, don't sit here. Maybe not. Like it's a small space. Like maybe don't sit here, bro.
Question, but it's an actual chair,
Yes.
right?
And someone being from, like in Manila, when there's a jeep, you see a small space, you sit down, right? That's the mentality. I mean, I learned that day, don't do it on the subway, because the guy was nudging me. I was like, okay, whatever. The next stop comes up. So I switched chairs. I moved from being in between the man and the woman to I was on the woman's right. I went to the woman's left side now because there was a free space. So I sat down there. Unfortunately, one of the women who just came in from the stop saw that I left that small spot, and she decided to sit down there too. So she was sitting in the middle of the people I used to be sitting with, and this woman was larger than me.
Okay.
Like, I want to say the size of that she took up was one and a half of me, but she still sat down in that seat,
Which
and
is still an actual seat.
yes, and she leaned back. So like she
Okay.
took up even more space.
There's actually nothing wrong with that. It's a
Well,
seat
yeah. Yeah. So the train starts moving, and I guess the guy was doing the same thing
to her.
that he was doing to me to her, like he was nudging her, something something. And she just snaps, she gets up, and she's like, "Why the f are you nudging me? Stop touching me." Da 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 da. And he says like the coldest shit I heard that day, which was, "If your fat ass don't fit, don't sit." That's what he said. So I was just like,
Oh my god.
okay. And obviously this lady was already embarrassed on the train, and this guy was cussing her out. She had like coffee in her hand, and she threw the whole thing at his face. That's when I knew, okay, this is not gonna be a good trip
This is
to
not a
work.
good morning commute.
So she throws the coffee at the guy's face. Unfortunately, some other people who had nothing to do with this incident get hit too, and they're like, "Hey, what the fuck?" And
Beep.
oh, sorry, what the fuck, beep. Anyway, so this guy, obviously, if somebody throws hot coffee at your face, you're pissed. So he stands up. He's like, he starts cussing her out, da 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 da. And this lady has now realized what she just did. So she's saying, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And the guy's like, "Oh, you're sorry. You're sorry." Da 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 da. So he starts shaking the people's hands beside him. I don't know why.
Like
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, she's sorry. She's sorry. She's sorry. You guys
oh,
okay?"
he's funny.
Well,
Okay.
So I'm observing. I'm like, number one, the train is still moving, and I'm like, oh my god, please make this train stop. Anyway, he then pulls out like a huge like a liter of water in his bag,
Mm.
and then he just throws all the contents on this girl, like douses her.
But was it an
It was
open
open, like he
bottle?
just,
Oh, okay. I thought he threw a
you
bottle
know
at
how
her.
they like the festival of Saint John the Baptist
No.
in San Juan, like when they throw water at people.
No, but it's okay.
That's what happened. So this girl is now drenched, and so are the people that
Around.
who were around her, who had nothing to do with this. So everyone's like having a bad day. So this girl's already like, okay, I'm not gonna do anything. Blah, blah, blah. And I don't. I mean, the aggressive guy with the water, um, I mean, it's an integral part of the story, but he's black, and so another person comes in, another black person is like, "What the f are you doing?" Because the lady that he threw the water at and threw the girl who threw the coffee at him was white. So you're saying, what do you think is gonna happen if people start recording this? That you start attacking a white woman on the subway? What's gonna happen to you, bro?
Oh, I
So the guy's like,
see.
yeah, I'm sorry, my bad, my bad. And then he goes, if I got hit by the water, you would be on the floor right now. I'm gonna knock your ass out.
Mm.
So I was like, oh my god, are they gonna fight now too? Like this, number one, this guy didn't even get hit by the water, and now he's saying he's gonna fight him. So I'm just like, can this train stop? And they're like, yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then like this whole thing is happening. The train has not stopped yet. Mind you, this is a very fast train, and it has not stopped. So this happened in 3 minutes, within 3 minutes of each other. At the end, the lady who got wet, the man who threw the water and got coffee thrown on, and the guy who said I was gonna fold you, they all leave the train on the same stop, which is like, I mean, that's probably a sequel for another, like the sequel of this fight. But then I was like, oh my god, thank god they got off the train. And then people start coming in, and they have no idea why all the chairs are wet with water and coffee. And it's I'm not even at work yet. So I'm just thinking, thank God that wasn't me who got hit by the water. Thank God I moved chairs. But you really do see the weirdest shit happen in the subway, and there's just always gonna be a wild card. Wild cards are like,
Yeah.
you're somebody who's on drugs just gets in the train, or some homeless person who's on drugs already on the train, or an aggressive person on the train, or like aggressive people on the train. So it's just, in the Philippines, I think we're more worried about someone trying to rob us, right? Like
Yeah.
we don't want to get snatched, we don't want to get robbed, we don't want to get mugged.
I don't know if this is the correct word, but I feel like crimes
Like
or
it's the
bad things that happen in public transportation in Manila is, and I don't know if this is the correct word. It's more straightforward. It's more like I'm gonna rob
yeah,
you.
I'm gonna rob
I'm
you,
gonna
or I
stab
stole
you.
your phone,
Stuff like that.
or like in other cases.
Versus
Yeah.
here where it's like I'm gonna cause a scene. You have no idea what I'm about to do
Yeah,
to
I,
you.
I could be assaulting you.
I could rob you. I
Yeah.
could just throw water at you. You don't know. You're about to find out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
There's like more options here.
it's less clear what they're trying to do, because the thing is, it's I mean, coming from a country where there's obviously a lot of poverty, you're scared that somebody's gonna do something to beat you up and whatever. They're gonna steal your shit for money, for purposes like that. They need money, or they need something from you.
Or like just
Yeah.
assault you, whatever.
Yes, the crimes that are possible on the subway are not, like, the intent is, you could just imagine. For example, the person, I've seen cases on the news where somebody is mugged, they didn't take anything from them.
Like they just
They just
wanted
they just want to beat you up.
to beat someone up. Yeah.
Or like people who get tossed into the subway tracks, or people who jump themselves onto the subway tracks. Like, it's wild card. And I think that's part, like, I guess that's a difficult lemon to swallow for us, because it doesn't, there's no logic behind the reasons why these things are happening, or why people are like this. Like, why are you so mad on a subway in the morning? Like, just chill, man. Or like, why are you trying to fight people? Like, if you're gonna take drugs, why are you on the subway? Like, just
Yeah, of all places,
Find the
why are you
like
here?
find the corner in the station. Just stay there. Why are you trying to get in here?
Because they want to get from one place to another.
I know, but can't you just take the drugs there? Like it's just it's hard because you're on guard. And here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, people don't snatch stuff in New York that I know of. Like if anything, it's probably like the least thing that you're scared of happening. Like the most scared of your
That's
happening,
true. You're right.
the most scared of that you're that the thing that you're most scared of being on the train is you could die.
Yeah.
When you are on a jeep, in a bus, wherever, you're scared that I might get mugged. Like if they're gonna mug me, you're like, okay, I'll give my shit.
Yeah,
Like
you can mentally prepare like, okay,
you know what?
what am I going to give?
Every time you step into a public transportation vehicle, there's a part of your head in the Philippines, in the Philippines where you're like, okay, something bad might happen to me. Worst case scenario, I'm gonna have to give up my
My
phone, my
wallet.
wallet. I'm not gonna have anything to
Mm-hmm.
like. I'm gonna be pocket like I won't have anything in my pockets, but I'll be alive. Best case scenario. I mean, worst case scenario, right? Best case scenario, you get home or wherever you need to
Unscathed.
unscathed. That's worst case scenario. Because nobody's trying to kill you on the sub. Sorry, nobody's trying to kill you in the jeep. No one's trying to kill you in the LRT. At most, you get mugged, you get robbed, you get groped or whatever. But no one's trying to like kill you. On the subway, you don't know. You really like. Is this guy trying to kill me? Like, is he trying to make a scene? Is he like? Is he gonna throw up on me? Is he gonna throw poop at me? Because no, like,
Yeah.
is he gonna show me his genitals? Like, is he gonna fight this person here? Like, I saw another clip. Somebody was on crutches, and he got into a fight in the subway. Somebody fought a guy in crutches on the subway
Oh no.
because the guy in crutches was talking shit too. It's like,
Oh. Why are you talking?
yeah.
Okay, whatever.
So it's an interesting concept where everything is, uh, anything is possible. Everything can happen.
I feel like we I think it's important
Yeah,
for
but please
people.
still visit us.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was about to say.
I feel like we're
I
scaring people, but it's something that's hard to,
wrap your head around.
yeah, as somebody who is not used to it.
So here's the thing. The fact is, you can hear about it on the news. You can research as much as you can before moving or before visiting about like subway etiquette or like how do you go around using the subway. And still, it will be different when you're here. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get, right? But it's also not to say that the subway sucks. It does its purpose for the most part. Okay, it gets you where you need to go. Are there things you have to watch out for? Definitely, yes. Um, and there are telltale signs. Sometimes, um, uh, if you imagine the subway, the older ones, not the ones that were just released, where it's just like one long train versus like carts of trains, there's a door that separates one cart from the next. Usually, sorry, not usually, the rule is do not open this when the train is moving because it's not safe. 70% of the subway rides I've taken, somebody opens it up and uses it to cross from one cart to the next. Usually, when somebody does that, you're already on heightened alert. Because,
Why are you crossing trains?
because why? Why are you crossing trains? The sign says don't. So, you already know that that person is a rule breaker.
But I want to say, unfortunately, in the case that we brought up, like the first case today where somebody got shot, people are trying to get out of that cart by moving.
Mm-hmm.
And like what you said, you're not supposed to. In this train, they locked it.
Oh.
They locked it.
Of
So
all the times
I know, right?
when you
S-
actually needed
yeah.
to get out.
So they're
Oh my
like, get
gosh.
us out of this effing train. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So you never know. You really never know.
But again, okay.
It's efficient in a sense that I will get to work within an hour, even if the train is late.
Yeah. No, but I think the point I want to get at is we will obviously be talking about this from the point of view of these are the worst things that have happened. I'm sorry. What I mean to say is, you know how in the news where you when you watch too much news, you feel like wow, the world is just crime. The reason you end up feeling that way is because the news only reports crime. And the reason that the news does that is because they need to report something that is newsworthy. And things that are ordinary are not newsworthy. So it's not to say that there are no more ordinary things. It's just that we have to tell you what's not ordinary. Otherwise, it's not news. So if you do hear these things more often, it's not to say that it's never safe to commute or use the subway. It's just
Yeah,
that
mom and dad,
it's
we
good.
are safe.
No, it's good to be aware that these things happen. It's good to mentally prepare yourself just so that when you see something weird happening, you know that it's not the first and it's not the last time, unfortunately, that it's going to happen. What I did notice, because I watch the news in the morning as like good background
Wow.
noises, they have they stationed police officers in the subway stations. I don't know if all, but they have police officers stationed. I think especially at the bigger train hubs or whatever, the bigger
Major
stops,
train
stops,
stations,
whatever
yeah.
stations. And then I guess if somebody has a suspiciously a suspicious looking bag, then they'll ask to search. And still with that in place, even if it's a few weeks old, this thing happened, right? But what I'm trying to get at is the world is not ending just because we are hearing of these things happening. It's like the world continues, the world continues to go on. People continue to use the subway. Safe trips still happen. So we're not trying to scare you away. We're just telling you that this does happen.
I think we were why we were highlighting these unfortunate things happening is more of just these are things that would never happen, or almost you would never imagine happening
Yeah.
back where we come from, which is
Mm-hmm.
part of the culture shock. I mean, I think that when people ask about our experience here, like the culture shock that they ask us is about, oh, how are the people, how's
Mm-hmm.
the food, da 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 da, and I think it's getting used to how people interact in public, because being on public transportation is mainly how we regularly interact with the outside world,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's our kind of taste of, okay, what's happening out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that's part of something that surprises us versus being back at home in terms of comparing public transportation there and here. Not to say that, like what Gabe said, not everything is bad. It's just it's almost funny, or at least humor is the way we want to deal with it. But yeah, unfortunately it does happen, and we are still trying to get used to it. It won't change. I mean, it's not like we're trying to actively change it. It's just we're
Yeah.
more mentally prepared now. Like, okay, we'll and now we can tell, like, oh, this is a good ride. This is a good train. Like, it's clean. Or like, oh,
Yeah.
this train is a little sketchy. Because sometimes there are good trains where it's full of people, but everyone's like just minding their own business.
Mm-hmm.
It's quiet, nobody's loud. Versus there are trains where there are so many seats available, but there's that one person there who's just like on heroin,
Something.
and
Yeah.
he is looking for something to do, and you don't want to be part of it. So
I think what would be good to wrap this up is, what are some tips you have for people who want to visit New York, or like want to come see
or like
us?
or
And like,
just
what are some
who are
tips
gonna
for
use it.
who are going to use the subway, who don't regularly use it?
My tips are: number one, download the Google Maps app. We are not sponsored, by the way, but download the app and make sure you know where you want to go, right? Because when you search the location on Google Maps, it'll tell you how to get there via the subway or via walking or however. So know where you're going, have that on your phone already. Number two, um, uh, just beware of your surroundings. I think it's a different kind of heightened sense of safety. Like in Manila, you're like, okay, check your phone, check your wallet, make sure it's in places where you can easily get them for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Here, it's more of like, make sure that you can, if anything happens, not that anything happens all the time,
Yeah.
just make sure that you can find a way to get out safely. You have a clear, you can find a way to safely get yourself out of a situation. I mean, inside the train, it's hard, but like just choose also like the cart that you go into. Um, make sure that, especially if it's late at night, make sure that there's still some people.
Mm.
And I think for women, I think it's important that there are also other women on the train with you.
Yes.
I mean, not that they're gonna protect you. It's just it gives you a sense of, okay, we're together on this train. Um, if you feel unsafe, get off. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
that's on. I mean,
Switch cars.
switch cars, or yeah, for example, you already chose a car and then someone comes in and they're like weird or
Yeah,
whatever.
feel free
On
to
the next stop, get
switch.
out, or
Mm-hmm.
be like the people that Gabe was saying, move to another cart in the middle of the train.
Yeah, just I don't know. I personally have never done it, so
Oh really?
yeah, because I've never had.
You've never
Thankfully,
had to do it. Good job. Yeah.
I've never had to do it. And I'm scared that I'm gonna trip and fall to my death. But, um, anyway,
That's a little
I think
morbid, but
to add to that, I once heard a piece of advice that was like, if you're seeing the train arrive, and you see cars that are full and cars that are empty, always go to the ones that are full
yeah, there's a
because
reason
there's a
those are
reason
empty.
those
Yeah.
are empty. Um, you don't know what the reason is. Sometimes it could be something as simple as something spilled and it smells bad. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Just I mean, the overall advice is just be mindful.
Yes, be
Don't
super mindful.
Yeah, don't be complacent with how safe you are, because anything can happen in the subway, either good or bad. Like good, like you might get a free show of
Yeah.
people dancing on poles, or bad, where you might get a crackhead
Mm,
trying to fight another crackhead, which I have
mm.
seen also. The other crackhead was handicapped, so
Oh,
it was kind of funny
hey.
in a sense that whenever the train would move, the guy on the wheelchair had more power. um, but
Okay.
every time it would stop,
Yeah.
the wheelchair would
yeah.
go back. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I think that's just what we wanted to highlight.
One last question from me because I want to know what you
Okay,
think. When you're on the subway, do you have headphones or earphones on?
depends.
On.
What? No, that depends on my mood.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I like to read on the subway, so I don't listen to anything when I'm reading.
Mm,
If I just wanna listen to something, yeah, I'll put earphones on. I mean, or sometimes I'll
okay.
put headphones on. I tend not to use my headphones in the subway because,
You don't want noise canceling.
not really, not necessarily. I'm conserving the battery for when I get to the office.
Oh, okay.
So that's me. I mean, I see people in headphones in the subway.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't seen people with the Apple Vision Pro yet.
Oh, good.
I hope I don't. But if I do, I will let you know.
Personally, what I do is I don't know. I don't like to read while on while I'm commuting. I don't do that
Oh,
often
okay.
because I don't like being bothered when I'm reading. So I don't want the constant looking around while I'm reading. I don't
Okay.
like the feeling of it's too crowded and I don't have space for my book. That's just a
Oh,
personal
I read on my
preference.
phone, so
Oh, I don't. I don't read on my phone. I either read on my Kindle or my that and I don't want people to know what I'm reading. Just because I don't want anyone to come up to me
well,
and
you read smut, but
excuse me. Excuse me.
I was just joking. I don't know if
Were
she
you
actually
silenced? Were you silent or were you silenced? You know that
what?
Oprah meme? Okay, whatever.
I
That's
only
what
know
I
one Oprah
feel.
meme. You get a car.
Okay,
You get a
whatever.
car.
Anyway, smut aside,
Ew.
whatever. I don't care. That's not all I read.
Wait, so you do? Okay, wait.
Hey,
We're
whatever.
going
That's
off a
not the
tangent.
point.
Anyway,
What I usually do when I'm in the subway is I have earphones or headphones on, but it's not noise canceling. So I am still aware of what's happening around me just because I don't want to be completely out of it. If something is about to start, I want to know if I should be thinking about moving to the next card or what.
I don't know if this is bad advice or good advice. I tend to sit next to like older women. Like
Oh,
Like
I've never thought
if
about that.
I can see that there's like a grandma type,
You're sitting
I'm
there
sitting next to them
because you feel like
because
collectively as a society, people don't want to harm them.
people don't want to mess with her.
Okay,
And if
that's
people do mess
kind
with
of good.
her,
That says a lot about them.
like if people do mess with the grandma, then like I have to get off the train.
No, but you see, if
Or like an older
following
woman,
that logic
yeah.
though, if
Or like
if
yeah,
somebody does mess with the grandma, I feel then that you now are the
have the
one.
obligation to do something.
I'm not. I wouldn't say obligation, but people in the train are now looking at you to do
No, no, no,
something.
no, no, no. I mean, it's not just me and the grandma in the train and the crazy person.
No, but you're the one closest to the grandma,
Oh yeah, yeah.
so it is a.
Or I try to sit next to like families.
Oh yeah, families.
Like if there's a single dad, single mom,
Mm,
there,
I get that.
yeah. Because if you try to mess with families and old people, chances are everyone will collectively like get on your case.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a person to person thing, people usually mind their own business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you prey on like the more vulnerable parts of society, like families on the train, pregnant women, disabled, well, except for the disabled guy. Actually, not disabled people. Pregnant women, families, and old people. But that's the thing with the subway, you get equal rights and you get equal lefts.
And equal wrongs.
No, do you not get it? Rights and lefts?
Oh, you mean like the hand you use to
Like
punch?
you're getting rights and okay. Sorry, I
I
had to
thought
explain
you
that joke.
meant like rights, but also like it's equal in terms of who will do the wrong. Like it could be anyone, is what I meant.
No, it's mostly men.
Oh, okay.
Um, or people who identify as male. I am an openly gay. No, I'm an openly accepting man of everything.
Whatever.
Anyway, thank you for watching our show today.
Come visit us.
Yes, please come visit us. New York is safe. At least the places that we'll bring you to. We're not bringing you to Queens. We're not taking you to the Bronx. But yeah, please visit us. And once again, please follow us on our Instagram and Spotify. Like our video, subscribe, notifications, and most importantly of all, please share. Sharing is caring, and caring means meaning I love Yemen. Okay, this was Poch,
And this was Gabe.
and see you in our next episode.
Goodbye.
Good night.